Some people dream of big houses, fast cars, and diamonds. I used to have all of those things. I lived in a mansion with 10 bedrooms. I drove a white Mercedes. I wore silk dresses every day. But I learned a hard lesson. A golden cage is still a cage. This is a story about how I left everything behind to find the only thing that matters: my freedom. I would like to ask you, is it better to be rich and unhappy, or poor and free? Please share your honest thoughts in the comments. My name is Marie, and for 10 years, I was a prisoner in my own life. My husband, Richard, was a powerful man. He was a lawyer in the city. Everyone respected him. He was handsome, charming, and rich. When I married him, I thought I was the luckiest woman in the world. But I didn't know that Richard had two faces. Outside the house, he was an angel. Inside the house, he was a tyrant. He controlled everything. He told me what to wear. He told me who I could talk to. He checked my phone every night. If I smiled at the waiter in a restaurant, Richard would scream at me for hours when we got home. "You are ungrateful, Marie," he would say. "I give you everything. You are nothing without me." I started to believe him. I became small. I stopped seeing my friends. I stopped calling my family. I spent my days walking around the empty mansion, afraid to make a sound. I was like a ghost in my own home. The breaking point came on my 30th birthday. Richard threw a big party. There were 50 guests drinking champagne. Richard made a toast. He put his arm around me and squeezed my shoulder hard. "To my beautiful wife," he smiled to the crowd. "My perfect doll. My perfect doll." I looked at him. I looked at the smiling guests who didn't know the truth. And I realized that if I stayed, I would die. Maybe not physically, but my soul would die. I started to plan. I couldn't take my car. He tracked it with GPS. I couldn't take my credit cards. He watched every penny. I had to be smart. For 3 months, when I went grocery shopping, I took out $20 in cash. I hid the money inside a hollow book in the library. On a rainy Tuesday in November, Richard went on a business trip to London. He kissed me goodbye. "Be good, Marie," he said. "I'll call you at 8 p.m. As soon as his car left the driveway, I moved. I didn't pack a suitcase. Suitcases are suspicious. I took a backpack. I packed 2 pairs of jeans, warm sweaters, and the cash I had saved. I left the diamond ring on the table. I left the car keys. I left the phone. I walked out the back door. I walked 3 miles in the rain to the bus station. I bought a ticket for the first bus leaving the city. I didn't care where it was going. I just wanted it to go away. The bus took me north to the mountains. I arrived in a small village called Pine Creek. It was tiny. There were no mansions here, just trees, snow, and silence. I found a small, run-down cabin for rent. The landlord was an old man named Gus. He didn't ask for a credit card. He took my cash. "It's not much," Gus said, opening the door. "The roof leaks a little, and the heating is loud." I looked at the small, dusty room. There was a cheap bed and a wooden table. It was ugly. It was cold. "It's perfect," I whispered. I moved in. For the first time in 10 years, no one knew where I was. I was safe, but safety feels strange when you are used to fear. I couldn't sleep. Every time the wind blew, I thought it was Richard's car. Every time the floor creaked, I thought it was his footsteps. I kept a heavy frying pan next to my bed. I was free, but I was terrified. One night, a week after I arrived, a blizzard hit the mountain. The snow was falling heavy and fast. The wind howled like a wolf. I was sitting by the small fireplace, drinking tea, trying to stop my hands from shaking. Suddenly, I heard a noise. Thump, thump. It was coming from the front door. I froze. Richard found me. He always said he would find me. I grabbed the frying pan. I stood up. My heart was pounding in my throat. Thump, scratch, whimper. Wait, whimper. Richard didn't whimper. He shouted. I walked slowly to the door. I put my ear against the wood. I heard a soft, crying sound. It sounded like an animal in pain. I unlocked the door and opened it just a crack. The wind blew snow into my face. Primera looked down. Lying on my doormat, half buried in the snow, was a large, black shape. It wasn't a man. It was a dog. A huge, black dog. It looked like a wolf. It was bleeding from its leg, and it looked up at me with yellow eyes full of fear. I had a choice. I could close the door and stay safe. Or I could open the door and let the wild thing in. I didn't think twice. I threw the door open wide. The wind screamed and snow blew into my warm room, but I didn't care. I grabbed the dog by his collar. He was heavy, but adrenaline made me strong. I pulled him inside and slammed the door shut against the storm. He collapsed on the rug in front of the fire. Up close, he was terrifying and beautiful. He was huge, with thick black fur, but his ribs were showing. He was starving, and his back leg was bleeding badly. "It's okay," I whispered. My hands were shaking, not from cold, but from adrenaline. "I won't hurt you." I ran to the bathroom and got a towel and some antiseptic. I knelt beside him. He growled low in his throat a warning. "I know," I said softly. "You are scared. I am scared too. But we have to fix this." I touched his leg. He flinched, but he didn't bite. He looked at me with those yellow eyes, and I saw something familiar. It was the same look I had in the mirror for 10 years. The look of a creature that expects pain. I cleaned the wound. I wrapped it in a clean bandage. Then, I went to the kitchen and found some leftover chicken. I gave it to him. He ate it in 1 second. He rested his big head on his paws and watched me. He didn't sleep. He watched the door. He was guarding us. "I will call you Bear," I said, "because you are big and brave." That night, for the first time in weeks, I fell asleep. I slept on the floor next to Bear. His slow, steady breathing was a lullaby. I wasn't alone anymore. The next morning, the blizzard was over. The world was white and bright. Bear was limping, but he could walk. He followed me everywhere. If I went to the kitchen, he came. If I went to the bathroom, he sat outside the door. I looked at my wallet. I had $300 left. It was not enough. I needed a job. "Stay here, Bear," I told him. "Guard the house." I walked into the village. It was small. There was a post office, a general store, and a place called Pine Creek Diner. I walked into the diner. It smelled of coffee and bacon. An older man with a white mustache was behind the counter. "Help you?" he asked. "I need a job," I said. "I can wash dishes. I can clean floors. I can cook. I don't have a resume, but I work hard." The man looked at my expensive boots, the only expensive thing I had left. He looked at my nervous hands. "Run away from something?" he asked. He didn't ask it unkindly. He asked it like he knew the answer. "Yes," I said. He nodded. "I'm Joe. DP is minimum wage. You start now. Here is an apron." I put on the apron. For 10 years, I had hosted fancy dinner parties where servants served me. Now, I was scrubbing grease off plates in a mountain diner. My hands got red and sore. My back hurt, and I loved it. I loved it because it was real. Every dollar I earned was mine. Richard didn't give it to me. I earned it with my own sweat. I worked at the diner for a month. I started to make friends. Joe was like a father. The customers smiled at me. I started to feel safe. I started to smile again. Bear was getting stronger, too. His fur became shiny. He gained weight. We walked in the woods every evening. But happiness makes you careless. One afternoon, I was walking home from the diner. The sun was setting. I was humming a song. I turned the corner onto the road that led to my cabin. Ten primera, sa, W italiano. A black car was parked on the side of the road. It was a sleek, expensive sedan. It looked like a shark in the water. It was out of place in this village of pickup trucks and jeeps. My blood turned to ice. I knew that car. It was the same model Richard drove. I jumped behind a large tree. I couldn't breathe. He found me, I thought. He tracked me. He is here. I peeked around the tree. A man got out of the car. He was wearing a long wool coat. He was tall. He had dark hair. He was holding a picture in his hand. He was showing the picture to a neighbor who was walking her dog. The neighbor pointed up the hill toward my cabin. I felt like the ground was opening up to swallow me. He was asking for me. And the neighbor just told him where I lived. I couldn't go home if he went home. He would trap me. But Bear was at home. Bear was locked inside. I had to choose. Run into the woods and disappear again, or run to the cabin to save my dog and face the monster. I couldn't leave him. Bear was my family now. He had saved me from the loneliness, so I had to save him from the cage. I didn't take the road. I ran through the woods. I climbed over fallen trees and ran through the deep snow. My lungs were burning. My legs felt heavy. But fear is a powerful fuel. I reached the back of my cabin just as the black car pulled into the driveway in the front. I heard the engine stop. I heard the heavy car door close. I ran to the back door. My hands were shaking so hard, I dropped my keys. Cling! I picked them up. I unlocked the door and fell inside. Bear was standing by the front door, the hair on his back standing up. He was growling a deep, dangerous sound that vibrated the floorboards. He knew the enemy was here. Quiet. Bear, I whispered. Wait. Knock. 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 3 slow, confident knocks. The sound of a man who owns the world. I took a deep breath. I grabbed the heavy frying pan from the kitchen counter. I wasn't the weak woman in the silk dress anymore. I was the woman who walked through a blizzard. I opened the door. Richard was standing there. He looked perfect. His coat was expensive wool. His shoes were polished. He looked at my cabin with disgust. Then he looked at me. He looked at my messy hair, my cheap apron, and my boots. He smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was a cold smile. "Hello, Marie," he said smoothly. "You look terrible. Go away, Richard," I said. My voice was steady. He laughed. He stepped forward, pushing the door open with his hand. He walked into my small living room like he owned it. "Don't be silly," he said. "The game is over. You had your little adventure. You played poor girl. Now get your things. The car is heated. We are going home." He reached out to grab my arm, the same way he used to grab me at parties. The grip of ownership. "I said no," I said, stepping back. "You don't say no to me, Marie." His voice dropped to a growl. "You are my wife. You are coming with me, or I will make you regret it. I will ruin this little life you built. I will burn this cabin down if I have to." He grabbed my shoulder. His fingers dug into my skin. The old fear washed over me. I felt small again. I felt paralyzed. But then a black shadow moved from the kitchen. Roar. It wasn't a bark, it was a roar. Bear launched himself into the room. He didn't bite Richard, but he jumped between us. He stood in front of me, his teeth bared, his yellow eyes locked on Richard's throat. He looked huge. He looked like a nightmare. Richard screamed and fell backward. He tripped over a rug and landed hard on the floor. His expensive coat was covered in dust. He scrambled backward, terrified. "What is that?" Richard shouted, his voice high and shaking. "Get it away. Shoot it." Bear took a step forward. "Grrrr, stay." "Bear," I said calmly. Bear stopped. He didn't move an inch. He just watched Richard, waiting for my command. I looked at Richard on the floor. He didn't look powerful anymore. He looked pathetic. He was just a man in a fancy coat, scared of a dog. The illusion of his power shattered. I gripped the frying pan, but I realized I didn't need it. "This is not your house, Richard," I said, "and I am not your doll." "Marie, listen to me," he stammered, looking at Barrisy. "I can give you everything. Money, jewelry, travel. You can't give me the only thing I want," I said. What? He asked. What do you want? I want to breathe, I said, and I can't breathe when you are near me. I pointed to the door. Bear growled again, emphasizing my point. Get out, I said. Get in your car, drive away, and if you ever come back, if you ever send anyone else, I will open the door, and I will not tell Bear to stay. Richard stood up slowly, keeping his eyes on the dog. He backed out of the door. He stumbled on the porch steps. He ran to his car. He didn't look back. He started the engine and reversed out of the driveway so fast that his tires spun in the snow. The black car sped away down the mountain road. I stood in the doorway and watched him disappear. The adrenaline faded, and my knees felt weak. I sat down on the floor. Bear walked over to me. The monster vanished. He was just a dog again. He licked my hand gently. He rested his heavy head on my knee. I buried my face in his fur, and I cried. But they were not tears of fear. They were tears of relief. The ghost that had haunted me for 10 years was gone. He was just a man, and I was stronger than him. I thought the battle was won, but life is not a fairy tale. Richard was gone, but he left me with one final problem, a problem that threatened to take away my home and my new life in Pine Creek. 2 days after Richard drove away, my landlord Gus knocked on my door. He was an old man with a kind face, but today he wouldn't look at me. He was looking at his boots. He held his hat in his hands. "I am so sorry, Marie," he said, his voice shaking. "What is it, Gus?" I asked. I felt a cold stone in my stomach. "I sold the cabin," he whispered. "Yesterday, a lawyer called from the city. He offered me triple what the land is worth. Marie, I am old. My wife is sick. I need the money for her medicine." I couldn't say no. I knew immediately. It was Richard. He couldn't force me into his car, so he used his money to take the roof from over my head. It was his final punishment. He wanted to make me homeless. He wanted me to crawl back to him. "Who bought it?" I asked, though I knew the answer. "A company called R. Sterling Holdings," Gus said. "They want the property empty in 48 hours. You have to leave. Marie." I closed the door. I looked at my small, ugly cabin. I looked at the fire. I looked at Bear. Richard had won. He had more money. He had more power. I was just a waitress with a dog and $300. I couldn't fight him. I packed my backpack again. I felt the tears coming, but I stopped them. I will not cry for him, I promised myself. The next morning, I walked to the diner. I needed to tell Joe I was quitting. I needed to say goodbye. The diner was busy. It smelled of coffee and toast. Joe was behind the counter, laughing with a customer. When I saw me, his smile faded. He saw the backpack on my shoulders. He saw my red eyes. "Marie," he said, "where are you going?" "I have to leave, Joe," I said. "I lost the cabin, my ex-husband. He bought it. He is evicting me. I have nowhere to stay." I tried to smile, but my lip trembled. "Thank you for the job. Thank you for everything." I turned to walk out the door. I was ready to walk to the bus station again, ready to run to another town. "Stop," Joe shouted. The whole diner went quiet. Joe slammed his hand on the counter. "You are not going anywhere," he said. He walked around the counter. He stood in front of me. "You wash the cleanest dishes in this town. You make the best apple pie, and you listen to my boring stories. You are not an employee, Marie. You are family." He pointed to the ceiling. "There is a small apartment upstairs. It was my son's room before he moved to college. It has been empty for 5 years. It is dusty. It is small, but it is warm. Joe, I can't," I said. "I can't pay much rent." "Rent?" Joe laughed. "You can pay me by working the Sunday shift. And Bear can sleep in the kitchen. He keeps the mice away." He looked at the other customers in the diner, the lumberjacks, the farmers, the teachers. "What do you say, folks?" Joe asked. Should Marie stay? She stays, Mrs. Gable shouted from table 4. We need her pie, Mr. Henderson yelled. Don't let the city lawyer win. Someone else cheered. I looked at their faces. These people didn't know my past. They didn't know about the mansion or the white Mercedes. They just knew Tay liked me. Richard thought he could buy my world, but he forgot one thing. You cannot buy loyalty. And you cannot buy a home, because a home isn't a building. A home is people. I moved into the room above the diner. It was perfect. I painted the walls yellow. Bear had his own rug. A week later, I did something brave. I went to the local library and I printed out divorce papers. I filled them out. I didn't ask for his money. I didn't ask for the house. I just asked for my name back. I mailed them to his fancy office in the city. I heard later that he was furious. He tried to intimidate me. He sent letters. But I didn't open them. I threw them in the fire. He had no power here. In Pine Creek, his money was just paper. That was 5 years ago. Joe retired last year. He sold the diner to me. I pay him a little bit every month. It is called Marie's Mountain Cafe now. I work hard. I smell like coffee every day. I have burns on my arms from the oven. My hair is messy, but when I look in the mirror, I see a woman who is alive. I have a new truckin' old, rusty red pickup. I bought it with my own money. It makes a loud noise, but to me, it sounds like victory. Bear is old now. His black muzzle is gray. He sleeps by the fire in the diner, dreaming of chasing rabbits. He is happy. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the woman I used to be. The woman in the silk dress, terrified of making a mistake. I feel sorry for her, but I am not her anymore. My name is Marie. My life hasn't always been peaceful. I had to walk through a storm to find the sun. I had to lose everything to find myself. But today, as I stand in my own kitchen, looking at the mountains, I know one thing for sure. Peace is not a quiet house. Peace is a quiet heart. And my heart is finally singing. If this story about courage, community, and finding freedom inspired you, please give this video a like. Do you believe that hard times make us stronger? Share your thoughts in the comments below. For more emotional English stories about overcoming the odds, please be sure to follow our channel.